Good afternoon, everyone. Let's start with comparative politics, the political sociology perspective. So, as we have seen in the previous chapter, comparative politics is the comparison of political system of different countries. And when that comparison is via the perspective of political sociology, it means to study the political system of different countries via the relationship between society and politics, the study of social structure, class relations, identity formation, and cultural norms that influence political institution and power dynamics of different countries. So, unlike traditional approaches that emphasize formal institution, political sociology perspective, it explores the deeper social forces that shape governance and policy making. So, in short, in other words, the meaning of this passage is that via comparative politics, we are comparing political system of different countries, and this comparison it can happen via political economy perspective or political sociology perspective. So, in this chapter, we are talking about the political sociology chapter. So, the basic idea is that any polity, whether it is a country, a region, or a multi, all of them they are composed by and manned by, and all the people they have their own society, their cultural norms, their social behavior, their identities. So this comparison it studies how different political system they are influenced by such societal behavior, such identities, such cultural norms. Now, the theoretical foundation of political sociology and comparative politics that to understand any political outcome, it needs deep engagement with classical sociology and political theories. So thinkers such as Karl Marx, Emil Durkheim, Max Weber, and Barrington Moon, they have provided foundational perspective to help explain how economic, social, and institutional factors shape political structure and development. Now let's start with Karl Marx and class struggle. So Karl Marx's theory of historical materialism, it asserts that political structure and power dynamics they are fundamentally shaped by economic class divisions. And according to Marx, history is defined by a series of class struggle between ruling class, the owner of means of production, the bourgeois, and those that work in those um, production units, the working class or the proletariat. So according to Marx, the whole world it is divided into two such classes: the bourgeois, the proletariat, those who owns those production unit and those that work in those production unit. So here the world in simple term it is divided between owners and workers, and he argued that economic base, that is mode of production, it determined the political and ideological superstructure. So here lies the just gist from, or the crux from the perspective of political sociology. So Karl Marx, he says that the superstructure, that is state, political units, laws, bylaws, culture, regulation, all of them, they are based in or they are determined by economic basis. In other words, according to Karl Marx, it is economy that determine the political institution. So, in this framework, political outcomes, whether revolution, policy changes, rule making, rule implementation, law making, dispute resolution, any kind of political outcome it is there, they are not independent occurrences, but they are result of conflict between these two classes. First, the owners who control the mean of production, and then those who are exploited by them, the workers. Then finally, Marx ends his perspective by saying that the ultimate goal of people, the working class, it is to overthrow the capitalism and establish a classless communist society. Now, let's proceed on to Emile Durkheim and social solidarity. Unlike Marx, Emile Durkheim he focused on how societies maintain stability and cohesion rather than conflict. So he talked about the leeways which are there among society uh, that maintain order, that maintain stability. And he argued that collective identities, whether they are cultural or political, shared norms, and institution, all of them they play a critical role in maintaining social order. And in his view, political stability it depends on social solidarity. So this solidarity it can take two forms. The first one is mechanical solidarity, which are found in traditional societies where people shared similar value, beliefs, and work. So the mechanical solidarity it was a product of simple lifestyle. So when lives and culture were simple and collective, then the solidarity is often informal, mechanical, and static. Whereas the modern society, this solidarity is dynamic, it is organic, and in modern industrial society where individuals perform specialized role, there is a diversity of role, there is a diversity of occupation, diversity of means of production. So to keeping that in mind, political system in modern time they are complex, they are organic, they are dynamic, and they require multiple institutions to mediate interest and conflict. Now, a simple version of explanation of this that Emil Durkheim he said that when population increase, so will the needs, the aspirations, the diversity of views, the diversity of societal norms and cultures, the diversity of um, identities and conflicts, and to address all such issues, the institution that govern them, the institution that maintain solidarity, they will also increase in diversity. And this diversity he named as solidarity. That when there are too many people that are at breathneck speed to each other, breathneck distance to each other, and they are very close to each other, and in that situation, they cannot stay in too long in a conflict because everyone want to go in with their work, everyone want to occupy themselves in their occupation, everyone want to live their life. So solidarity is there. Now he classified two kinds of solidarities. First, when the society was simple, the solidarity was mechanical, like a formal sense. When the occupations are simple, beliefs are simple, then the authority was often rigid, such as the older aristocratic rules, older monarchies, the rules of kings. So here, the relation between the polity and people it was very mechanical. But in the modern society, when we are too many and we are like small and significant creatures that are caught in a web of entanglement. We are in a labyrinth, we are in a web where our respective action it influence each other. So in that case, our political system it should uh, accomplish two feats. First, it should maintain order, it should resolve disputes, and second, it addresses the concerns of individuals. So whichever concern they are, whether they are psychological, whether they are professional concern, whether they are aesthetic concern, whether they are financial concerns, economic concern, concerns related to human rights, concerns related to right to live, of mobility, of occupation. So all such concerns need to be addressed, which will be the first function of the modern political system. And then, because two concerns may come in conflict with each other, and then those disputes need to be resolved. So that's why the modern institution they are organic, they are dynamic. And finally, Durkheim emphasized that The legitimacy of political institution, it is rooted in their ability to reinforce collective consciousness and integrate diverse social groups. The meaning of which is that modern political institutions, what we call government, the bureaucracy, the three pillars of government, the legislature, executive, the judiciary. So all such institutions, including the quasi one, all of them, their legitimacy, how long they remain in power and how much people trust them, this legitimacy, it is rooted in their ability to reinforce collective consciousness, means to maintain order, to maintain the solidarity, and at the same time integrate diverse social groups into its fold. So let's take example of legislature. A legislature in any country, it will be legitimized, it will accept the faith of people as long as it is able to integrate their viewpoints and at the same time maintain this collective consciousness, maintain the collective solidarity. Next, Max Weber and legitimate authority. So Weber, he expanded the discussion of political power by identifying three distinct forms of legitimate authority. The first one is traditional authority, which is based on customs and long-standing practices, often seen in monarchy and tribal leadership. The second one is charismatic authority, that is rooted in the personal qualities and vision of a personal leader, especially observed in revolutionary figures, dictators, tyrants, and authoritarians. And third one, legal rational authority, which is based on established law and bureaucratic institution, the characteristic of modern democracy and bureaucratic state, especially countries such as USA, India, most of the European countries. So these three are different authorities by Max Weber, and he explained why certain regimes endure and other collapse. So his work highlights how legitimacy is not just about force, but about the belief system that sustain rules and institution. So according to Max Weber, um, there are many countries, many nations, or many principalities that do not sustain for long. They collapse. While there are many countries which, despite setbacks, despite crisis, they endure and emerge victorious. So this is because of how legitimacy is integrated into the governance system of any country. If any country, it is governed by legitimate authority, then people will act in a united way. People will behave in a cohesive way, and this cohesion, this collective solidarity, it will help that particular country to sail the tough times. Whereas many countries, such as war economies, dictatorships, many illegitimate authorities, so all of them, they lack on this front. This cohesiveness, this collective solidarity is not there. And when crises come, the people, they usually they usually get rid of these authorities either naturally or by revolution. Because of that, such countries, such principalities, they do not stay in power for long. Now, the idea of Barrington Moore and social structure in political regimes. So, Barrington Moore, in his seminal work, Social Origins of Dictatorship and Democracy, analyzed the historical development of political regimes by linking social structure, especially class relations and economic transformation, to the rise of democracy, fascism, and communism. So, the simple meaning of this passage is Moore, via his work, he analyzed historical development of different political regimes, such as fascist country, communist country, dictatorship, and he linked that polity, it is influenced by both social and economic parameters. So the class relations in a country and the economic transformation, both these parameters, they define which way a country will go, whether it will go to democracy or fascism or communism or any other form of government. Now, according to him, different paths to modernization they lead to different political outcomes. So first one is democratic development, which emerged in society where strong bourgeois middle class challenged uh, the aristocratic power. So this was seen in England and the United States when a strong middle power it led to civil war and the overthrow of aristocrats. Then fascist development it occurred where conservative elites they maintained dominance by suppressing peasant uprising such as Germany and Japan. And the third one is communist development. It arose when peasant revolution, often led by radical intellectual, overthrew traditional elites, such as in Russia and China. So these explanations are simple enough, and if you need further explanation or if you need a simple explanation, you can throw a comment. Then Moore's famous assertion, no bourgeois, no democracy, it underscored the importance of economic class dynamics in shaping political regimes. So, yes, it was stated by Barrington Moore then that if there is no bourgeois, if there is no middle class, and this middle class, it is not a social parameter, it is an socio-economic parameter. So if middle class is there, then it will be taxed by a particular authority, and that taxation will give rise to demand for representation. So you might have heard this phrase that no taxation without representation. So it will happen that this bourgeois it will have its own set of demand, it will have its own set of concern for which it will seek its representation. And when their representations are made, this will be nothing but a democratic representation. Now, key concepts in political sociology with comparative politics. First concept, the state and society relationship. So, political sociology it examines how the state interact with various social groups, including elites, worker, ethnic minorities, and women. So, as the name suggests, political sociology it is an integration of politics and society. So, in a way, it is about giving a due share, giving or listening to the views of various sections of society, which includes elites, workers, ethnic minorities, religious minorities, linguistic minorities, or whatever kind of minorities are there. An example, the influence of civil society in democratization process in Latin America and Eastern Europe. In both these countries, it was the civil society and their diverse opinion and their seeking of representation that led to the process of democratization. The second concept, social class and political power. So, if a government is being established and they are social classes, so they will also seek some sharing of power. They will seek a federal framework of power sharing so that they will also have their views heard. So distribution of power among different economic classes they also affect policy making and governance. The meaning of which is if power is shared. So federalism is nothing but sharing of power in any government setup. So that power will be shared according to the demands and concerns of different classes, and that prima facie it needs the existence of economic classes. So if different economic classes are there, then they will have their own grievances. A simple mechanism is if they are owners, then they will be workers as well. So here we see the polarization of society in terms of these two factions. Now both of them they will have their own concern and their grievances, and the mediation will be done by any political entity which will be incomplete without sharing power between these two. Example, the neoliberal reforms in 1980s and 1990s, they benefited economic elites while marginalizing the working class in many developing nations. So here you can see that the neoliberal reforms, especially to understand it better, you might have heard about this LPG reform, liberalization, privatization, and globalization reforms of 1991 after the balance of payment crisis. So, to bail out India, IMF, the Bretton Woods institution, they sought that India should liberalize its economy. India should open up its economy. So this opening up and this power sharing, it led to the benefit being accrued by economic elites, while the working class, most of the middle class, they were marginalized because most of the benefit they were concentrated in the hands of a few person. Now the third one, political culture and socialization. Political culture, it refers to collective attitude and belief about politics within a society. So a group of people, what they collectively believe, what they collectively understand about a political system, it is known as its political culture. So if we take example of contemporary India, modern India, we know that most of the population, they are young, and this young population, it holds a different idea about politics of present time, which is a lot uh, different than was the political culture during the 1950s and 1960s. तो उस टाइम पे होता क्या था, जो भी कैंडिडेट है, ही यूज टू हायर अ फ्यू जीप्स, और फिर वही जीप गांव गांव जाके लोगों को वहाँ पे इकट्ठा किया, उन जीप में भरा जो पार्टी कैंडिडेट्स हैं. सो इट वॉज द क्रूडेस्ट फॉर्म ऑफ पॉलिटिकल कैनवेसिंग, कुछ बताना नहीं, कुछ नहीं करना, एंड पीपल वर ऑल्सो illiterate then. So the final अंडरस्टैंडिंग वॉज दैट जो पार्टी कैंडिडेट है, द कैनवैसिंग कैंडिडेट, वो लोगों को कहते आपको फूल पे वोट देना है, आपको हाथ पे वोट देना है, फूल पे हाथ पे, दैट्स इट. लोगों को भी नहीं पता कि उस टाइम बैलेट पेपर क्या होता है, वोटिंग प्रोसेस क्या होती है, व्हाट डेमोक्रेसी इज. ऑल दे न्यू वाज ओके, वोट देना है, वोट क्यों देना है, दे हैड their own things in mind, their own reasons in mind, but it was nowhere related to having a sound political system in a country. और यही मॉडर्न टाइम की बात करते हैं, मॉडर्न इंडिया की बात करते हैं, तो मोस्ट ऑफ द पीपल, मोस्ट ऑफ द यंग पीपल, दे नो what these EVMs are, what these voting machines are, what political canvassing is, what a political manifesto is, which political party stand for which direction on which side of political spectrum, and how they are aligning with those manifesto, aligning with the party politics of a particular political party, and so on. तो ये एग्जाम्पल, ये इंडिया के दो अलग अलग टाइम पीरियड के बारे में. एंड यू कैन also take example which is listed here, the difference in political culture of authoritarian China and democratic India. Now if you ask Chinese people about what a polity is, what a political culture is, if their collective attitude, their collective belief, if they are aligning with any political party, because China does not have any democratic way of election. एक ही पार्टी है, कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी ऑफ चाइना, और most of the election, most of the political canvassing, the way manifestos are represented, the collective belief of people. It is some kind of a black hole. Most of the Western media, most of the world, it does not know what it is to have a polity in China. Now, the fourth concept, identity politics and ethnicity. So, ethnic and religious identities play a significant role in shaping political allegiance and conflict. Here, ethnicity or ethnic, it means having a separate culture. Ethnicity, it is about culture, and those culture, it can it can be based on anything. It can be based on geography. It can be based on shared ancestry, such as in tribal people. It can be based on languages, the linguistic diversity, the linguistic culture. So, all in all, ethnicity or ethnic relations, they talk about having a separate culture. So, any group who wants to stand out from the other in terms of its geography, its shared ancestry, its shared kinship, its shared language, cultural practices, या कोई भी पैरामीटर हो उसके हिसाब से, yes, the main thing is if it consider its group as separate from other identities, then it will be known as ethnic group. So ये जो ethnic and religious identity हैं, they also play a significant role in shaping political allegiance and conflicts. क्योंकि political allegiance, which means political support to align with any political party. So let's say if any ethnic group, if it takes the side of any political group A, so here there are chances that A will emerge victorious and will have a greater say in power. So here it has a direct or a proportional relationship with a political group. And ज़्यादातर जो जितनी भी डाइवर्स कंट्री होती है रिलीजियसली एथनिकली डाइवर्स कंट्री सच एज इंडिया, हमारे यहाँ भी वी हैव अराउंड 750 ट्राइबल पीपल और ट्राइबल ग्रुप्स. और ये तो एक एग्जाम्पल है. वी हैव लिंग्विस्टिक डाइवर्सिटीज एलवेयर, देन वी हैव सेक्शनल डाइवर्सिटीज एज वेल. सो एथनिक रिलेशंस इंडिया में बहुत सारे हैं. अब फिर वो जितने भी ग्रुप्स हैं, who they take side with, who they hold their allegiances with. So this power sharing or this political support, it also holds a greater sway in political terms. Now, the example here, the ethnic based federalism in Ethiopia versus unitary state model in France. So, Ethiopia, a country, an African country situated in the Horn of Africa. Here, this country, it is populated by diverse tribal groups. So, it is likely that इसकी पॉलिटी जो है, इसका गवर्नमेंट सेटअप जो है, वो एथनिक बेस्ड फेडरलिज्म ही होगा यहाँ पे, जिसमें डिफरेंट ट्राइबल ग्रुप्स हैं. दे हैव बीन गिवन पावर, they have been shared power according to number of people, according to on the basis of population, which is analogous to tribal federalism. So ये एक example है. Whereas on the other side we have a unitary state model in France. So France में ये ethnicity वगैरह जो है, ये सब they are not there. France is a unitary state where it is the constitution that rules supreme, और other जो ethnicities हैं, diversities हैं, they have not been given any due place. The fifth concept, social movements and political change. So political sociology also examine how social movements, they drive political transformation. An example is given here about the Arab Spring uprisings of 2011. Now let's look at the case studies. The first case study is about identity politics and political movements. So identity politics, it refers to political positions that are based on aspects of identities such as race, caste, gender, religion, and ethnicity. So if any group, if it aligns with any such markers of identities, they are said to be engaged in identity politics. So these movements they emerge when marginalized groups they mobilize to challenge systemic inequalities. ये जो the topic of identity politics है, it started when different identities. Let's take example of feminist movement. So when women they look at their own state of affairs, their own state of rights, then they realize that they are considered a separate group. They have a separate identity. So they sought equal representation. They sought their rights. So herein produced a movement based on identity politics. In the same way, when tribal people, they were tribal and indigenous people, they were outstayed from their homeland, from their habitats because of developmental priorities. So they recognize that they are being ousted, they have a separate identity, and they need to engage in identity politics to seek their rights. First example is the civil rights movement, racial identity and political change. The civil rights movement in the United States, it was rooted in struggle for African American against racial discrimination, segregation, and disenfranchisement. So here, the meaning of this term is African American USA के अंदर they were racially discriminated. They were not given equal right. जैसे इंडियंस जो हैं उस टाइम ब्रिटेन के अंदर या जो यूरोपियन वर्ल्ड के अंदर इंडियंस blacks या people of mixed origins they were not given due rights, they were not given equal rights to that of white. सो यही सेम केस जो है ये अमेरिका में भी हुआ, द यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स में, कि जहाँ पे वाइट पीपल हैं दे यूज टू लुक डाउन अपॉन द ब्लैक्स एज inferior, racially inferior, and several racially discriminatory policies were charged on them. So these African American they led to a long civil war to end those racial discrimination and segregations. Now the key milestone, first Brown versus Board of Education 1954, in which the Supreme Court of the US it ruled that racial segregation in public school was unconstitutional. Then the second instance was Montgomery bus boycott. It was sparked by Rosa Parks' arrest, which led to Supreme Court ruling declaring that bus segregation is unconstitutional. Then the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which outlawed racial segregation and discrimination in public places and employment. And finally, the Voting Rights of 1965, that prohibited racial discrimination in voting and ensured African American the right to participate in democracy. Now, the impact of these political structures was that because of this civil rights movement and the identity politics that asked for its due right, it increased African American political representation, and it also later inspired many identity based movements such as the feminist movement, the movements of indigenous people, LGBTQ community. Now, the second case study, Caste and Politics in India, the Mandal Commission Report 1980, and affirmative action. Well, if I have missed this thing, disenfranchisement, it is similar to not giving anyone equal rights. So, franchisement means it's an economic term, means to give someone equal way, equal footing in terms of all parameters of economic relations. So that may include giving equal opportunity to open a shop, equal opportunity to involve in any economic trade relations, equal opportunity in terms of economic activities. So giving equal opportunity, it is an enfranchisement, and the opposite of which is disenfranchisement. That's the original meaning. But when we talk about identity politics, Disenfranchisement, it means to take away the right to vote or right to due representation. Now, the caste system, which was historically a hierarchical social structure, it has influenced access to education, employment, and political representation. Or हम लोग Indians, we know what a caste system is, and endogamic group. Endogamy means कि जो members of caste हैं they can marry inside their own particular caste, and फिर उसके बाद there are many rituals and behavior related to pollution. Means किसके साथ बैठ सकते हैं, किसके साथ खा सकते हैं, किसके साथ economic and other relations हो सकते हैं. So that was that the earliest practices. And the modern caste system, it is synonymous with having endogamous relationship. वो तो core concern है ही है कि आज भी caste system it tries to maintain this endogamy. Then it is a hierarchical social structure in which there are some upper caste, some middle caste, some lower caste. That और फिर constitution enactment के साथ there have been many caste based efforts, many legal effort to address the caste based discrimination, which led to significant political reforms, particularly through affirmative action policies. So, affirmative action means to legal provide aid via legal means. So, aid means support, help. So, if aid is being provided by legal means government, the state, it is trying to help those historically discriminated people by giving what is due to them. So one of the manifestation of this state help or affirmative action, it culminated in the establishment of the Mandal Commission, which gave its report in 1980. So it was established, Mandal Commission was established to assess the socio-economic condition of backward caste, and it recommended that 27% reservation be given to OBCs, other backward castes, along with existing reservation for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. So it was implemented in 1990 by Prime Minister VP Singh, which was led to widespread protest and counter movements. Now, the impact on Mandal Commission report on political structure. First, it strengthened caste-based political parties such as Bahujan Samajwadi Party, Sapa Samajwadi Party, and many regional parties that advocated for lower caste rights. Second, it deepened affirmative action policies, which gave further state help for educational and employment opportunities of the backward caste. And then it triggered debates on meritocracy versus social justice. क्योंकि अगर रिजर्वेशन मिल रहा है शेड्यूल कास्ट, शेड्यूल ट्राइब, OBCs को, which are considered historically discriminated people, so it might lead to uh, the neglect of merit, the neglect of talent, waste of talent. क्योंकि अगर कुछ सीट्स जो हैं out of 100, some seats are reserved for these communities in name of social justice. So because of this, so जो बाकी population के अंदर जो talent pool है, talented and meritorious people, they will be sidelined in the name of social justice. So ये debate भी start हुआ, and this debate is still going on whether social justice should have a special leeway to address the question of meritocracy, or if meritocracy it can allow to the gradual dilution of principle of social justice. Now the third instance is about feminist movement. So feminist movement, they have fought for gender equality, traditional challenging traditional patriarchal power, the power structure that marginalizes women. So Its first instance was the Judith Butler and performativity. So Butler in Gender Trouble 1990 it argued that gender is not a fixed identity but a performance-based societal norm. And her work influenced queer theory and the broader feminist movement. So meaning of this work by Judith Butler and the meaning of this concept, gender performativity, it means the gender that is equated in a society, the gender that is marked on individual in any society, it is based on performance. So it's like the kind of work you do, it determines your inherent characteristic, whether you are masculine or feminine. So if you are engaged in work that is associated with feminine quality, then this then your identity, your character, it will be a feminine one. And if you are engaged in some masculine work, some hard work, some laborious work, the work of higher cognitive performance, uh, work of critical thinking, which are associated with the masculine work, then your personality, your characteristic, they will align with the male gender. So this was the meaning of the work of Judith Butler, that gender is not a fixed identity and it is determined by your performance. Then the political impact of feminist movement first was the first wave feminism, which focused on suffrage, securing women's right to vote, and the USA it gave the right to women in 1920. So suffrage here it means the right to vote. Suffrage and enfranchisement, which is the opposite of disenfranchisement. Both of them in political term they mean similar thing. Means to give right to vote, give the right to representation. और यूएसए में पहली बार वीमेन को राइट टू वोट इट वाज गिवन इन 1920 और इंडिया में we gave women the equal right to work in 1949 itself. Now the second wave feminism, it addressed workplace discrimination, reproductive rights, gender roles. Then the third wave, it emphasized intersectionality, recognized the overlapping struggle of race, class, and gender. So all in all, the third case study that is regarding feminist movement, it culminated in three waves of feminism and various legislative and policy achievements regarding these movements are: first, Equal Pay Acts of 1963, then anti-discrimination laws and workplace protection, third, reproductive rights and advocacy for bodily autonomy. और ये वाला अभी recently ही it was in news by Roe versus Wade judgment, in which Supreme Court of the United States it gave women the right over their bodies, especially the right to abortion. Then in India, we have had this enactment in terms of sexual harassment at workplace known as She Act and Vishaka guidelines, जो again about sexual harassment at workplace. Now the second aspect of political sociology, religion and politics. So religion has long played a crucial role in shaping political ideologies, government structure and state legitimacy. और ये इतना मुश्किल नहीं है ना? आप लोग इतने टाइम से अगर देख रहे हैं PSIR, you have gone through a whole encyclopedia of example, encyclopedia of texts which have equated religion, the cocktail of religion, the influence of religion on polity. Now, the first section of which is secularism versus religious nationalism, India's struggle between secular governance and Hindutva politics. So, India, the world's largest democracy, it started as a secular country. It was founded on secular principle, but the recent rise of Hindutva politics, it has shaped the political landscape. So, historical foundation of secularism, it started with first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, who emphasized secularism, and the secular principle were also granted their due place in Indian Constitution, which guaranteed freedom of religion via Article 25 of Fundamental Right, and prohibiting religious discrimination on the grounds of religion by another fundamental right, Article 15. But the rise of Hindutva and religious nationalism, so Bharatiya Janata Party and Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh (RSS), both of them, they promote Hindutva, an ideology that seeks to establish Hindu cultural supremacy. And this propaganda, it has its own precedent, such as demolition of Babri Masjid in 1992, Gujarat riots in 2002, then policies like Citizenship Amendment Act 2019 and revocation of Kashmir's status in 2019. All of them, these events, they are aligning with the politics of Hindutva. Now, the impact of this dilution of secular principle on governance are: first, it increased marginalization of religious minorities, and then it blurred the line between religion and state politics, further impacting the secular institution. Now, the second case study in religion politics, it is about establishment of political Islam via the Iranian Revolution in 1979 and establishment of political Islam in Turkey under Erdogan. So, political Islam refers to integration of Islamic principle into governance. The Iranian evolution of 1979 and Turkey's political shift under Recep Tayyip Erdogan, they exemplify this phenomena. The first case of the Iranian revolution of 1979. So this revolution, it overthrew the pro-Western monarchy of Shah. So Shah Muhammad Reza Pahlavi, he was a supporter of democratic principle, and he he looked favorably to the Western modern of governance. But the Iranian Revolution under Ayatollah Khamenei, it established Islamic Republic of Iran, which merged religious leadership with state governance. So this revolution, it also introduced Sharia-based laws, restricted political dissent, and enforcing Islamic social codes. And finally, this shifted Iran's foreign policy towards a more confrontational stand with the West, particularly the United States. और ये बहुत साल से ये इशू चल ही रहा है that Iran, it is developing its nuclear capacity, and there are many issues, especially the discord between Iran and Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia is an ally of the US. So in that way, Iran, it has inadvertently confronted USA by shifting to this stand. Now, political Islam in Turkey under Erdogan. So, Turkey was historically a secular country under Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, but the ruling Justice and Development Party of Erdogan, it reversed many secular policies and reintroduced religious element in the governance. He has restricted media, interfere in the judicial work, and crack down on opposition. It reflects authoritarian tendency under the guise of Islamic nationalism. Then he also transformed the ancient Hagia Sophia, uh, a structure that signifies Turkey's secular principle. He transformed this structure into a mosque. Now, the third aspect of political sociology, populism and nationalism. So, populism and nationalism both have research in global politics, and they have created powerful movements that appeal to majoritarian sentiments. So, populist leaders often position themselves as the representative of the common people against elite institutions, while nationalism, it emphasizes national identity, often in opposition to globalization and multiculturalism. So this shift in domestic and foreign policy, or domestic and global politics, it has been an outcome in the recent years, especially after the 2008 financial crisis. And it was this time after which globalization it faced a setback, and all the later events, all of them, they made certain dent on the globalizing tendencies. Further, the rise of World Wide Web and social media, popular media, fast flowing data, all of them, they further created alienation in people and in the minds of people. And this place, this opportunist movement, it was taken in by such leaders who talk of populism and nationalism. So such leaders, such populist leader, they appeal to such majoritarian sentiment, the sentiments of majority population. Now the examples: first, the rise of right-wing populism, Trump, Bolsonaro, and Modi. So Donald Trump, he was elected in 2016 and 2024, appealing to economic nationalism and white working class voters. So here you can see the populism playing out in full force. At first, he is looking at one majority. He is seeking votes of one majority, that is white majority, white working class in the USA. And then he is talking about economic nationalism, which is nothing but the growth of, or the prosperity of America only. So पहले term में you might have heard this slogan, MAGA, Make America Great Again. So this economic nationalism, it is about projecting economic prosperity of USA in the international sphere. And his policy, they advocated for restrictive immigration policies, including the Muslim travel ban and border wall construction. And he has also attacked mainstream media and positioned himself as an outsider, challenging the political establishment. So this work, it is a manifestation that seeks to dilute the democratic principle and establish the authoritarian or dictatorial governance. So this attack on political establishment, whether it is about the Constitution of America, about the democratic institution that have so far held America in place since 1717, this attack, it is a coveted and smart move to dilute the democratic principle and to acquire all power for himself. Now, the second one, Jair Bolsonaro, Brazil. So he rose to power in 2018 by leveraging anti-leftist rhetoric, nationalism, and opposition to environmental regulation. He downplayed COVID-19 pandemic and strengthened his ties with the military, raising concern about democratic backsliding. So this may need an explanation. Anti-leftist rhetoric, leftism in political spectrum, it means um, you can say social rights, labor rights, economic rights, or in fact, in short, it is about socialism. So anti-leftic rhetoric means such socialism, it was attacked, directly attacked by him, and this gave him due place in the power. And after that, he has shown his dictatorial tendencies. And finally, Narendra Modi, he utilized Hindu nationalism to consolidate support. His policy like Citizenship Amendment Act and crackdown on dissent, they have intensified religious and political polarization. He has merged economic development narrative with cultural nationalism. Now, migratory and identity politics, the European refugee crisis and nationalist policies. So, migration has become a major flashpoint in nationalist politics with the 2015 European refugee crisis. So, 2015 European refugee crisis is nothing but many people, especially those who were facing political persecution and unpredictable climate, they sought refugee status in many European countries, and this led to a flooding of migrants and refugees in European countries. And uske baad they started debate around how to allow migrants, whether to allow them, and whoever are already there, how to deport them to their own country, and whether it will be beneficial, whether it will be prudent to deport them to the country they are fleeing from. So the first Hungary and Poland's response. Hungary under Viktor Orban, he adopted strict anti-immigration policies, built border fences, and rejected EU quota on refugee intake. And Poland, its Law and Justice Party, it promoted Christian nationalism, resisted multicultural policies, and increased state control over judiciary. Now, the impact of these development on European politics. So, first, the rise of far-right parties such as Alternative for Germany and France National Rally. It increased polarization between pro and anti-immigration faction within the European Union, and it also strengthened nationalist rhetoric that frames migration as a threat to culture, identity, and security of European countries. Now, modern concern, the role of digital media in political mobilization. The digital era, it has revolutionized political engagement while enabling democratic activism. It has also increased manipulation through disinformation campaigns. So first example, it is of the Arab Spring 2011. So here, platforms such as Facebook and media, they allowed activists to organize protests, and here viral video of government crackdown. They also galvanized international support, and many hashtag movements such as hashtag January 25 Egypt and hashtag Syria Revolution, they help coordinate resistance. The political outcome of these development, it led to overthrow of leaders in Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, and Yemen, and it highlighted both the potential and limitation of digital activism in sustaining democratic transition. And you might have heard about this disinformation and political manipulation of Cambridge Analytica scandal of 2018, which is also equated with the first term of Donald Trump. So, while social media it enables activism, it has also been weaponized for political manipulation. The prime example is Cambridge Analytica scandal. So, Cambridge Analytica, or political firm, it harvested Facebook data of millions of users without consent, and it used the psychographic profiling. It made psychographic profile of of the voters, of the users, social media users, so that to micro target them. The meaning of which is your Facebook profile uh, or in any kind of social media account, whether it is X, WhatsApp, um, Signal, whichever social media platform it, including Facebook and Instagram. What happens is when you follow a certain political party, then you follow many personalities who may be associated with any particular party, any particular political spectrum. Then you may comment, you may like them, like a post, and you may comment on the working of a political party. Then all of these data, they create uh, a psychographic profile of yourself. Psychographic profiles, which means um, a psychographic and political profile. So herein your data, it will be encapsulated in a way that gives a hint about who you like, which post you like, which particular work of you like, which psychological manipulative trick you fall into. So this micro targeting, the whole data, it will be bought by any political firm to get an idea of how people are um, trailing in the in any political election. In short, which political direction people are looking into. और फिर उसके बाद such firms, they provide personalized political ads based on their psychographic profiles, and it was assumed that it influenced elections. First, the 2016 US presidential elections for Donald Trump and the Brexit referendum. Both of both of these events, they were led where they were connected with this firm Cambridge Analytica. Now, impact on democracy, that it exposed vulnerability in digital privacy and electoral integrity. It sparked debate on regulating tech giants and combating fake news, and raised concern about foreign interference in election through digital propaganda. So digital privacy, your data, it is your concern. And if any firm, or even if the social media regulator which you are part of, if they are misusing your privacy, if they are taking your data without your consent, or if they are using any manipulative trick to get your consent without you actually understand what you are consenting to, these issues, they are cyber manipulation. And then the second instance, electoral integrity. So electoral integrity, it is clearly about maintaining secrecy. If secrecy is not there, then why are we holding election? So if the people who are contending for election, they, if they know in advance who you are going to give vote to, then this secret dimension, this secrecy, it is shattered, this integrity, it has been violated. So both these vulnerability, they have been exposed. And then these two things, they are not difficult to understand. Now, the application of political sociology to international relations. The first one is globalization and state sovereignty. So, political sociology, it analyzes how globalization, it affects state autonomy, and social structure. And second, the example of which, the rise of multinational corporation and the influence on national policies. So, it is an open secret that globalization, it affects state autonomy, state sovereignty. How? Because globalization, it is about proliferation of multinational corporation, especially in economic terms. And those multinational corporations with the giant money, with their deep pockets, they can influence any state policies. Second, transnational social movements. So, political sociology, it examines global movements such as environmental activism and human rights advocacy. And the third one is identity conflicts in international politics. So, ethnic and religious conflict, they transcend national borders, and such transcendence, it has been studied by political sociology, especially in terms of international relations. क्योंकि कुछ ethnic and religious conflicts, and they may overflow, they may spill from their national borders. So Israel Palestine conflict is one such example, and we are seeing the ramification. यहाँ पे uh, we are seeing interplay of Hamas, Houthis, then Iran is also flexing his muscles. Then, in support of Israel, Saudi Arabia and US are there. So, we are seeing an evil axis of evil in terms of Iran, China, and Russia. They are all supporting the issue of Palestine. So, we know this whole issue, it may backfire anytime and may spread like a wildfire to engulf the whole world in a world war like situation. Now, finally, the convergence and divergence between political economy and political sociology. So, while political economy is primarily concerned with the material structure, economic institution, and distribution of resources, political sociology, it focuses on identity, culture, and agency in shaping political behavior. So, meaning of which is political economy, जिसका वीडियो पहले बनाया था, it is concerned about how economic institution, economic structure, how economy in general, it influence polity of different countries, and those polity will be understood, will be observed by the principles of comparative politics. So, whereas the political sociology, it focuses on how social parameters such as identity, culture, agency, social norms, cultural behavior, all of them, they influence polity in a different country. So, this is it. Thank you very much.